All right, to those tuning in at home, my name is Ian Virtue. This is the Coffees and Combine podcast. Today, I have three amazing gentlemen with me. I have Bill, Larry, and Alex, all doing amazing things across Ontario. I don't need to tell you, I'm going to have them do it themselves. Bill, start with you.
Bill Tenhove and Tenhove's Custom Farming, and I do custom farming and fabricating. I build stuff, so.
Amazing.
Larry Dyck, Camden Grain. I'm a grain farmer in the Niagara area.
I'm Alex Barrie. I work for the Ministry of Agriculture as a soil management engineer, but I have too many hobbies to count, and they all sort of apply to agriculture in one way or another. So.
Amazing. These gentlemen are at the IFAO conference, Innovative Farmers Association of Ontario. We've got an amazing collection of speakers today, and we're going to spend the next 30 to 45 minutes chatting. We're going to be talking shop, or they're going to be talking shop, and I'm going to attempt to facilitate it. And yeah, we're going to have a great time.
Cool.
I'd actually like to start with you, Alex. I noticed during your presentation today that your journey seems to be this testament to the power of learning through trial and error, turning each mistake into a valuable lesson. Could you share a particular memorable challenge or mistake that you've encountered in your work and how you went about navigating that?
I'll go a little bit before that, maybe. The first thing, so father always built stuff. So I grew up kind of in that luxury that he was always building stuff anyways. So I remember being a young boy, and we went out to the scrap heap that grandfather had piled up somewhere, and I found an old wash tub and an old steel wheel. And I said to Dad, I want to make a wheelbarrow. And he said, okay. So we learned how to weld together all the stuff to make a wheelbarrow. It was a terrible wheelbarrow. You couldn't dump it out, but it had handles and a wheel, and Dad and I welded it together. And that was kind of the start of that. And then turning wrenches, growing up on stuff, you just, every day you learn something, and you add that to the collection of skills, and then you build on that, and et cetera and so forth. So, and then I'm very much a person who will get bored of a hobby and then replace that boredom with another hobby. So I like to collect unfinished skills, if that makes sense.
Gotta catch them all. Gentlemen, are there anything you like to add in that sense? Are there any memorable challenges that you've encountered or mistakes you've made that, you really learned, maybe how you learn or how to troubleshoot?
When we decided to build dribble bar, we thought it'd be easy to make the manure flow and the need run flow. We started with a 12-inch pipe. Every 4 feet, we put an outlet out and divided it into 4. And then we went to our pond and tested it. We had about 20 feet of pipe, 5 outlets, and let's go. This is going to work good. Fill the 12-inch pipe. It's going to fill level and come out this another foot of pipe above it. Where do you think the water come out? The last 2. It went, hit the wall, some out them pipes. First one, second one. Oh my gosh, nothing. We're sitting there scratching our head. It's like, oh, that didn't work. Thousands of dollars, 12-inch pipe, like Schedule 40 pipe, all the elbows, all this, and it's like, maybe we should have spent a little more time at school before we went to the welding shop. Well, that was a hard one to take, and I still struggle with the dribble bar to get it to spread even. That is a big problem, and I haven't seen one that spreads it. If somebody tells you they spread even, they're lying.
Right.
That's, we have another design in the back of my head. We drew it on the soapstone on the welding table. We haven't implemented it yet.
Right.
And it's going to be done with valves to control the pressure in the bite.
Interesting.
So that's a struggle.
That is a struggle.
We wanted to stay away from the distributor because distributors plug and cause grief. So the hydraulic motors, so we were trying to get away from that. But yet we don't want too much pressure in the pipe because we want to let the manure go right without atomizing. So that was a struggle. I built a manure boat and a dribble bar. Manure boat, self-propelled, remote control. Throw it in the pit, worked. The dribble bar, oh my God.
A simple piece of product, and the worst, yeah.
I actually have a quick question about the manure boat. I was speaking to one of my colleagues about it, and I'm very new to ag. What is the purpose of the manure boat? And wouldn't moving the manure release more methane and nitrogen that you're wanting to store within the manure?
The purpose of the manure boat is to sand bedding, dairy manure, the sand's on the bottom of the pit. You want to agitate that up, put it in suspension, and then pump it out.
Okay.
The reason our nozzles are below the surface are for that exact reason of creating gas and smell and nothing. We only have one nozzle on top to break a crust. The others are all below the surface
Interesting.
and very close to the problem.
Now, was that a custom solution that you put together? Like to...
There is other manure boats out. We actually went to a different manufacturer and told build us one, and he laughed at us. So we built our own. He was laughing that they didn't sell us one. So we made it simple. It doesn't have to be that complicated. We put ours against the wall. Yeah. And they can go around that pit all day long and just look away. Unattended.
It's amazing. Larry.
Lots of memorable mistakes, but probably in relation to our journey with Plant Green was the first year. We had a number of things go wrong. One was a massive drought. We made some mistakes in planting. And for a couple of weeks, struggling through just waking up at 3 or 4 a.m. with my brain in turmoil. And once I realized that A, this was very survivable, and that B, that this was an engineering problem, and we just needed to work our way through it. And that was kind of like you with your dribble bar. It's an engineering problem, and you'll figure it out, I'm sure. But, that was a huge thing. And then to back up and to take a look at a friend of mine in Greenhouse, how they had a seeding system and they broke it into 17 steps. So to take a look at my corn planter and break it down into individual steps and see what we needed to change on every step to make this work. And that was the kind of thing that, because otherwise you looked at our field and said, this is a complete disaster. There's no way this will ever work. This is just stupid. Mm-hmm. And to realize that most of the problem was engineering, not agronomic.
Yeah, like breaking it down step by step sounds like an amazing approach to problem solving.
That's what it was, because we had problem at the back, but we also had a problem at the front. Don't look at them as two individual problems. Don't say the whole thing's a problem.
How do you guys approach problem solving these very technical and almost, I don't want to say larger than life, but truly large engineering problems where like what the problem is and what the solution is, it sometimes can be so unclear. As gentlemen who seem to really take on that challenge, like, how do you go about it?
Throw money at it.
You Google it.
Yeah.
And you spend a lot of time thinking. Like your brain works at night when you're asleep. Yes. When you're sitting there for a book, watching a movie, driving, and it just keeps coming back and worrying at this thing.
So when I say throw money at it, it's the first one you're going to build's not going to work. Dribble bar, that sunflower combine that I made for no reason other than I wanted to. I was most of the way through that when I decided this is designed poorly. For all of the reasons why I know combines are designed poorly. So at some point building that, I knew it was an inferior product and I just needed to move on to Mark II. I finished that one because I was, 3/4 of the way through it. You might as well finish. Learn what you can on the rest of the steps, and now you can take that to the next one. I found a guy on Instagram who makes nice little steel equipment. And I think he will build a lot of them that are not up to his standard. And the thing you do with them is you learn from it and you throw it in the garbage. So when you see a finished product, there's usually 4 or 5 or several prototypes before you saw it, because that didn't just happen. And then and then a lot of it you can book design a lot of stuff. But you have to, the pitfalls and the whatever the hang-ups that you don't see coming, eventually you just either adapt what you have or start over with the new information.
It's amazing. Do you have anything to add?
He's right. It does cost a lot of money. It costs a lot of time. The moment in the middle of the night, that's happened. But then you think, how could I be so stupid that I didn't know that or didn't think of that?
Also, I've read in a number of places the last number of years that large corporate business spends a fairly significant percentage of gross revenue on ideas, and they don't have to pan out.
Toss them on a wall.
And so, okay, if they don't know either, you can beat yourself up. Why won't this dribble bar work? But the reality is there's engineering book is filled with people. Why didn't this work?
Sprayer nozzles. I don't know who I was talking, where I heard it from, or there's theory behind atomizing chemical, and then there's practice. So what they did was they built 10 that were all different designs. They tried them all, and then started paring down the ones that did the thing that they wanted them to do. So it was all just guessing,
Trial and error.
But the money they would have spent making each one of those things,
Yep.
and then eventually you end up with a nozzle that's going to work, do exactly what you want, that you would not have been able to predict on paper. So if you're in that sort of development or that kind of investigation, you have to waste time on what will eventually fail. So I don't know how many quotes there are. The WD-40 or the whatever. It's 40 because 39 didn't work. But if it's pretty standard stuff, pretty low risk, then you learn from previous stuff. So maybe we'll tell that long. That's a long story to tell. I won't get into it. But I was building a thing a couple weeks ago, and I measured that I don't know how many times. Part of it was just my paranoia that I was going to mix the numbers up, and so I wanted to build it on a weekend. I wanted to take it back to London, where I'm living, and use it. And I checked, and I checked, and I checked, and the relief when it fit on, and the pins went in, and everything worked. That was I maybe didn't need to measure it that many times, but it's because I've done it wrong several times on other stuff. This time I learned. So yeah, you got to screw it up at least twice to learn it.
Cut it 3 times, and that's still too short.
I'd actually like to talk about those custom solutions a little bit. I feel like, especially Bill and Alex, you guys really have this track record creating custom solutions to agricultural challenges, and Larry, you as well. How do you go about identifying the need for a custom solution, and what is the process for developing that?
Well, in my case, we started drag hosing manure when it was fairly young. You couldn't go to John Deere and buy a drag hose system, so you kind of had to pick and put pieces, and you kind of had to revamp some of the stuff we bought. Because the first drag hose we bought, we had a Cadman system. The boom was nozzle at 14 feet, 2 nozzles just set outside the duals. It was a perfect rig. We started pumping the higher gallons. We had an overlap with 6 feet in the middle. Well, you can't do that, I'm afraid. So we took that boom and we cut it right in half and split it. We made it hydraulically adjust in and out so we could control. But that wasn't one on the market at that time. So we just outgrew our boom because we were pumping more gallons, and we had to do something. And if you go down a cornfield and plowed ground and the guy cultivates it twice after that, you'll never see that. But on a hayfield or wheat field, it shows just because we spread a lot of manure on alfalfa and on spring and wheat, and that is a problem. That's why we went to the dribble bar, and we made it 64 feet so we can actually get rid of some of this overlap and print it. But that is what we found. That wasn't available. But unless you want to buy a combine, well, John Deere has it. They didn't have a drag hose system, so we had to learn how to figure this out. And the farmers are standing there looking at you, and they see the problem, and we're in the business of doing their service
And doing a good job.
Trying to.
Yeah.
Trying to. So Yeah, that's why as far as the manure boat goes, there was boats out there. We just seen the market for a smaller one in Ontario. It's because we just put it up against the wall and do our thing.
And how did you go about testing these custom solutions?
Well, in my business, I have a pond at home, so I can play with water there. Yeah, take it there, didn't work, cut it apart, do the work. We actually put the boat in the pond the first time we used it, and we didn't have remote control. We sat on there with put a little dashboard. Very cool. We had switches, right?
And who was riding on it?
I was. And my friend that's here, Jamie Beaumont, because in his manure pit was the first manure pit we put in it. So the first thing we throw it in the manure pit, and I'm sitting out there running the controls, but we didn't know where our nozzles were because it's all under the edge of the surface. So we didn't know which way the boat was moving. So we put indicators on top now. So if you lean on the indicator head, the boat's going to go that way. The front turns left and right. We didn't know that when we first started. That was a hard lesson because I'm out there playing and all of a sudden you're going the wrong way. I hit the wrong switch once and the pontoons folded up. That's not a good my sleeve caught it. The switch stuck. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was nerve-wracking because I can't swim. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, not something you want to swim in.
I don't think it would have sunk. They just come up a little. It
Would have tipped you over, but yeah, that's funny.
So the first thing we did after that was we took it out and we built indicators on it. And we tore that whole boat apart, rebuilt it, painted it, because that boat wasn't painted wrong, because we didn't know what we had changed.
Right.
So we just said, and after a year
Paint stuff because I don't like paint.
we sandblast and paint everything ourselves. That as we sell them pump units.
Yeah.
Back then we did paint. We would trim that the wheel up, and that's what they get enough. Now we can actually paint. So, but it took us a year or two to figure that whole thing out, and then we finally tore it apart, rebuilt it, fixed our problems, and sandblasted and painted it. So,
What about you guys?
It's just necessity out of stuff, so you can't race out and buy everything to suit exactly what you want it to do. So I don't know, one out of thousands of examples. We needed a gate to turn our dry cows out, but it couldn't be in the way all the time. It had to swing out, and then it had to disappear somewhere because we had to get to an auger behind it when we weren't turning the cows out. So that turned into a folding gate. So we spent a lot of time figuring that out, and then it was too heavy. So then the garage door springs come out, and then this and that. Now it's the most over-engineered gate, and the only purpose is so that when you don't need it, it goes away. So stuff like that, or a piece of equipment just not doing it for you. It's a little bit cumbersome to use, or it just doesn't quite reach something, or so we've modified tons of stuff. For adding hydraulic cylinders to stuff is like a game for us. You could make a game show out of it. So just to make life easier, it's quality of life improvements, a lot of it. And then the rest is, well, you can't get it anywhere else, or you can get it anywhere else, but you have to change it for something specific anyways. And if you enjoy doing it, yeah, you can just do stuff because you like doing it. So that's, I think 10% of my projects would be just take a shot at it, see what happens. So,
Larry, any thoughts?
Necessity. Like I talked about our horse drill. We wanted a liquid fertilizer system. We wanted a certain capacity. And I knew what tanks I was putting in, but then we had to extend the platform where the tank was right up against the wheel. We couldn't get in to calibrate. And so we got to figure out how to extend the platform. The same thing with the fill system. I could buy the auger. Nobody built me a mount. And so you go digging I don't have your level of skill or expertise. I went to the junk pile to see what we could reman, and that's where I found the arms, and then we started adding hydraulic cylinders and figuring out pivots, and
That's a challenge.
yeah.
We made our boat fold up. And so that wasn't, like, we have an AutoCAD system now, but we did it back then. And we had the cylinders hooked to the crane, fold them up, put them down, fold them up, put them down, remove the cylinder, move the hinge pin.
Yeah.
2 inches here makes an awful difference. We wanted them square and for road travel.
And then you got to figure out where to run the hoses so they don't pinch.
Well, it's not as easy as it looks.
Some people like sitting down with puzzles at tables. That doesn't intrigue me.
Oh, that's my wife.
But to sit down with, where are we going to run these hoses?
I did 3,000 piece puzzles last month.
Why?
In a week. Oh, partly.
I'm going to agree with that question.
What did you do when they were done?
Partly because I come down with the Rona, and so I was stuck at home. But what do? Puzzles. They're good. And then they're deeply unsatisfying because you finish it, and then you immediately tear it up.
Hey, looking at it for what, 10 minutes?
Well, that was nice. What did I really gain here? So, they're
A new respect for patience, a new discovery of it.
it's the looking for the pieces that's the
Interesting.
and I don't know, maybe there's a corollary there, I guess, for looking around the scrap pile for the piece that'll fit, kind of thing. But so it's the same thing. Just you don't have to tear it up, throw it away at the end.
Unless it's prototype.
Yeah. Unless
One, two, or
unless
three.
it never worked. Yeah.
A durable bar.
Now, today, all three of you, in one way or another, really touched on the importance of efficiency throughout this process. So whether it's through custom tooling or planting green or managing manure, how do you guys balance the drive for efficiency with the goal of also sustainability? Do you find there sometimes come to a head? What do you think?
Yeah, that welding cart I made to have all the tools that I need to build stuff. It's the pile of tools you need to build the hypothetical project. Well, you don't know what you need. And I had it all laid out the way I thought it would work. Well, then you start to use it. And then you realize, I haven't ever picked this tool up. Why is it out? So that kind of efficiency is one thing, but then there's the actual production of it, I guess. So if everything's neat and tidy and put away, people that do this in their house boggle my mind, because you put everything in a glass jar, and then you put the glass jar in the cupboard, and then you close the door. Well, if you use that every day at breakfast, that should be on the table, because now I have to open the door and get.
He's a middleman.
So there's 6 extra steps there that don't need to happen, and the only reason it's in the cupboard is because you don't like clutter. So you have to kind of argue with that. There's a peek into the curtain there, but yeah. So you find that in your own shop, and you're always fighting with space everywhere you are. So you kind of have to the taking all those bolts out of that Ken Arthur was tools everywhere. And finally it was I had this cart, got the cart out, scraped up all the tools and shoved them on it. And then that's like, oh, well, that's the obvious fix for that, because you realized you were spending a lot of time looking for the socket that you swear you left on that tire.
It was there 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Hands on the other tire.
Yeah. So you can drive yourself nuts having everything laid out just perfect, but then how you use it sort of evolves that process, and then you regress to the mean.
At some point. Interesting. Larry?
Well, thinking of your cart and tools, I wind up looking for tools all the time that I know I used 30 seconds ago.
Yeah.
I was on the volunteer fire department for 20 years, and when we got a call, the first thing that got set up, if it was a working call, was a staging area.
Yeah.
So that everything came back to there. And I go, okay, so your cart is a staging area.
Yep.
And so, yeah, is it efficiency, or is it just I'm getting so tired of looking for things, I'm going to create a staging area so that I know where I have to go look for it?
So much more organized when it's backwards, should be.
Yes, absolutely.
I have young guys working for me, and never gets put backwards.
Yeah.
Because they haven't gotten mad at themselves enough yet.
I haven't got mad at them often enough.
So how do you go about like facilitating that learning? That clearly all three of you have come to the conclusion that putting things back where they belong is a great idea. That is a learned experience. How do you go about facilitating that for people who aren't there yet?
I'm going to figure it out yet.
If you know, tell me. I don't deal with employees though. It's usually just, where I left it. And I have a process. The way my mind works is, what was it the other day? It was, did you throw out this thing? Yeah, because it was underneath the table leg for 6 months. I said, because that's where it lives. That's where it was like it'd be like a nickel or something. Did you pick up that nickel that was on the floor? Yeah. It's like, well, that's where I knew where it was. So a lot of it is just remembering at some point. I remember when we got a new kitchen in the house and we switched which side of the sink the cutlery drawer was on. How many times did you open the drawer for the dish towel looking for a spoon? And then we did the same thing in the shop. The toolbox was in the worst end of the shop, and you had to climb over stuff to get to it, which was not working for us. So we moved it. Well, how many times do you think we walked over to that corner of our shop until we remembered that, we've moved that now? So
I had a neighbor who apprenticed as a mechanic and then licensed as a mechanic. And I remember watching him, and he said it had been drilled into him by an older mechanic, a mentor. He says, you clean up the last job on the last job's clock before you start the next one. And that had been just drilled into him. So, yeah. But if you're not in the shop there to drill it into them, it doesn't get drilled.
I worked with a guy as a mechanic, and my toolbox was organized tools, 1/2 inch, 9/16 through, Yeah. His was on tape.
Right.
And he was happy with that. And I said, that's fine until someday you start an engine and the 9/16 goes through the rad because you changed an alternator or did something. One glance in my toolbox, I know where it is.
Yeah.
If I pull that drawer open, it's not there. You better go find it because that rad could cost $3,000. So,
Bill, you mentioned earlier that you put together this pump school that free of charge, something you run out of your own farm. And first off, I think that's super cool. Really, really amazing. But I want to talk about community education a little bit and problem solving. So how important do you believe community engagement and knowledge sharing is in advancing sustainable agricultural practices? And how do you go about facilitating that?
I don't know.
And this can be to everyone, but start with you.
I guess the reason when we do a pump school, we give them a meal. It's all free. So I guess we're looking at sales in the end. We can sell pumps. It's always about sales, right? It's always about proving ourselves. But if you can help a guy who's struggling to do what we do, never. Because it's not fun when you start hosing. Looking, the learning curve is straight up. It's tough. It's, when they drop all that equipment off and they say they're coming to help you, they're not coming. So if we can help somebody avoid all the growing pains, why wouldn't you? Fake. They're just trying to make a living too. Especially if you sell them something. Because we can sell complete systems. We can sell pumps, hoses, splash plates. We have access to all that. So we can sell you a whole complete system. Why wouldn't we help you, Sonny? Why wouldn't we tell you the problems? Because you think with the hose, you think with a pump, you hook your dribble bar or your boom up here, you hook your pump here, and you put 10 hoses in between. Well, you've already failed because the hoses are dry and the first manure going down the pipe will bear and it'll come to a coupler and stop. So about every 3 hoses, you dump a little on the ground. We call it burping the hose. Hook it up, go to the next 3 hoses, go to the next 3 hoses.
Really?
Get the system.
Interesting.
And then away you go. Now, that was a hard one for us to learn because we learned it the hard way.
Right.
Interesting. So why wouldn't I save you the grief? That's what our pump school is about. We teach, we do teach hoses and hose size and friction loss and hoses. We give you the charts. If it's your first day at a school and never pump manure, that's right over your head. We will lose you.
Right.
Why you put an 8-inch hose instead of 6? So at lunchtime when you're talking like we are here, that's when you learn as much as Yeah. So we tell them the tricks, and then the next guy will say, hey, well, we did it this way. And you might think, you might have that moment. Hey, that's not a bad way. So, yeah.
What do you guys think on the community education front when it comes to these more niche problem-solving efforts?
Like Bill, if I can help somebody avoid some of the mistakes I made, I'm thrilled.
So what tools do you use to help? Not tools, or how do you let other people know what you're doing? Or the mistakes that you've made? Is it just through one-on-one conversation?
In my case, it would be.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand what Bill's position is, and I think what he's doing is really cool. But yeah, I'm. If somebody's interested in what we're doing, they're gonna come and start asking questions, and then it's do I push them off, or do I take the time to even anticipate some of the questions that they haven't asked because they haven't messed that up yet.
They don't know what they don't know.
No.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's interesting to problem solve with somebody who isn't there yet. Like they're starting their journey, whether it's growing green or planting green or working with manure. But there's such a knowledge gap there. Alex, I know working in Omafra, I feel like knowledge transfer is maybe more part of your job.
Kind of where I make my bread and butter. That's what I like about this job the most is the summertime events where you can show a process or a method or something cool or whatever. But you get these combine schools or Spray Smart or whatever in the area. So how to set up a combine, how to set up your forage harvester, which, you don't realize a lot of people, they haven't gone through the same school of hard knocks, as it were. So it would help them to share a bit of your story, but I find it difficult to know whether or not they really want to listen to you or not. So you don't want to be the old guy that comes up, well, back in my day, I had the onion on my belt. So that was cool what we did there, where if you wanted to hear me ramble on about stuff, you come to the room. So I didn't realize that anyone was going to enjoy that, and lots of questions. And I think they think I'm a little bit more skilled than I might think I am. But it turns out they all really found that quite interesting. So maybe there's value in doing that more often, or getting on the social media or something, because somebody somewhere will find what you're doing interesting, and they'll either talk to you about it and share that, or learn something, and then whatever, the greater good. Sure.
I want to finish off here, first off, by thanking you guys so much for your time today, not only at the conference, but for letting me steal you into this room here for our podcast. I think I really want to touch on that last point you brought up there of somebody out there is going to find the knowledge that you're sharing useful. And I want to give each of you the opportunity to share with our audience what you guys have going on in your life right now, whether it's an initiative you're working on, some knowledge you'd really like to share, something you're passionate about. But I'd like to give each of you a quick moment to speak to me or the camera, let the world know what you guys have going on. Bill, I'm going to start with you.
Start over there. What I'm passionate about,
Let's take it whatever direction you want. It could be a final note, a final thought based off our conversation, whatever you want to share.
I don't know. Don't put yourself down. Enough people do that, right?
Yeah.
I've been to shows with my boat, and people put you down, and you've built this thing. I'm pretty proud of my boat. We built it the first try. We made it remote control, and I did that in the welding shop at home. I don't have any, and someone will come up to the booth and, oh, we could do a better job. Well, then go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself down. Don't listen to that either. Build yourself up always, because you should be proud of what we've accomplished. We started with nothing. Me and my wife started with nothing. We built it up to a multi-million-dollar operation. Yeah, you should be proud of that.
Absolutely. I love that.
And nobody should put you down. For certain, don't put yourself down.
Yeah, they got enough people out there doing it for you.
That's right. Just go one way straight ahead.
I love that. Thank you. Larry,
Passionate about.
passionate, something you're working on, working towards, something that you'd like people to know about.
I guess what's one of the things that grabs me is that I do a bunch of work with the Canadian Food Grains Bank, and to realize that, you know, the poorest, hungriest people on much of the globe are farmers, and here we sit, you know. Yeah, we can talk about the financial struggles and all, right, but we live and act and function in a place of security and safety. We may not like the politics, but it doesn't matter. We like, you know, we have so much to be grateful for. And so to be able to use our resources, whether it's to run a pump school, whether it's to talk to somebody about what we're trying to do, or like, that's just it's gratifying and enjoyable to have those kinds of conversations with people, because we sit in this place of incredible safety.
It's wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
I was a bit too profound to follow up on with
So you got
much
much
less than.
I'm sorry.
But I just like collecting stuff. You're only here once if you believe in that kind of stuff. But so, you know, the ability, somebody said make cool stuff and put it on the internet because somebody will enjoy it. You never know. It'll bring it. Just the human experience is quite interesting. Mm-hmm. So if you can make a cool thing and make somebody happy or smile, or the epitome was those little stamped sheep. I made a one-hit die to stamp those out from flat plate, it's totally unnecessary because you can bend it by hand, and I'm only going to ever make 50 a year. But I made a one-hit die, and the joy that it brings to me to watch that work.
Yeah.
Just, why would you do that? Why would I not do that? So, and then, you know, giving other people, I guess, a chance to, it's not difficult. Oh, okay. So you can just own stuff.
I'm going to press you a little further. I'm sorry to impress you guys.
Okay.
You talked about the human experience, and I feel like you glossed over it a little bit. Can you dive into it a little bit further? Like the joy of the human experience.
What are you going to do? Like, I don't know. The activity, it's not activity. It just, I can't put it into words. I like doing stuff, and other people, I'm not special compared to other people. Other people can do stuff just the same as I can do stuff, finances and opportunity aside, right? But I don't know, it's fun.
Love that. And everyone can find something that they find enjoyable.
It's like rock climbing is your jam, or climbing skyscrapers, or whatever. I don't understand that. I'm not into it, but I can see how it would appeal to people. And the just collecting hobbies that's my hobby, is collecting hobbies. So I don't know. I can't really explain why I like doing it. I could easily stay home and read books, but
Do puzzles.
Do puzzles, yeah.
I'm going to save that for when I'm a little less mobile. So I have, I've taken up amateur strength sports because that was basically the hobbies evolved because a hobby starts feeling like a job to me. So you get something new to distract you from the stuff that feels like a job. And then
that was originally supposed to bring you joy.
And then you start doing that too much, and then that becomes a job to you. And now you have to find a hobby to interject.
Distract from your hobby.
Yeah, joy back into your life. So it's probably not the answer for the human experience you wanted, but that's the way it is.
So like that is the human experience right there.
Yeah,
it's not quite what we want. It's what we're gonna get.
42.
You have time to go to work, or you have too many hobbies?
There was a time when I was at home with too many hobbies, and doing the actual work was a little bit hard hard to work on. Did a lot of meetings in the combine doing soybeans 1 year.
Well, gentlemen, once again, thank you guys so much. To everyone at home, this is just the first day of the IFAO conference. We still have lots of speakers, lots of amazing conversations. Honestly, some incredible chats today, oddly more profound than I expected, but a wonderful direction. Once again, Alex, Larry, Bill, thank you guys so much for being on the podcast. And yeah, those tuning in at home, we'll see you soon.